26b. Don't worry, once the next Mishnah comes, it's getting pretty easy. Less technical, more just sources. So the last thing we spoke about was when you put the kmitza onto the altar, at what point does it permit you to eat the remnants? Is it when the fire caught it at some point, caught grip of it, or when it burnt most of it, right? That was the last thing we saw. So that was obviously two opinions. So better two Jews, two opinions than two Jews, three opinions. Huh? So yeah. Let's come to a board meeting. We're here 100. So okay. So that's that. So now let's continue from the middle of 26b. So it says we brought a proof from the corruption of Sdom out of all places. It has to be mostly burnt. Okay. So now Amar le Ravin bar Rav Ada le Rava. Amri Talmidayach. So Ravin, the son of Rav Ada, said to Rava that the student said as follows: Amar of Amram, in the name of Rav Amram, Tanya. They quoted a brisa. Ainli. Yeah. I only have things. So there's a number of things that are brought at nighttime. For example, Avarim Upedarim Shemalin Maktirin Mibo Hashemesh. You have things like the limbs and I think the different fats that are. You bring them up and they offer them from when after sunset. And they get consumed, digested, the whole kol halayla. They're on the altar the whole night. Kol halayla kula. Fine, those are the nighttime things. Tavarim shedarkan likarev vayom, things that are usually brought in the daytime. For example, kigon, hakomet, kmitza, halavona, the incense, the frankincense, the ketores, the incense, uminchas kohanim, the offerings, the flour offerings of the kohanim, uminchas kohen meshuach, and the offering of the kohen gadol, uminchas nesachim, and the offerings with the libations. All those things are shemalin umaktirin mevo hashemesh. Now, we're going to get to what this has to do with most of the fire or a little bit of the fire, but we have to first figure out the technical wording of the brisa. So it just said that things that are brought in the daytime are brought mibo hashemesh. That's the same language that was just used about things that are brought at nighttime. And when it mentioned that word mibo hashemesh, from the sun setting, earlier in the same brisa, it meant from sunset. So how can you tell me the things that are brought in the daytime, when are they brought mibo hashemesh, from sunset? Well, from sunset is nighttime, not daytime. So says the Gemara just parenthetically, you said daytime, not nighttime. You're right. Ella in bahashem, it's with the coming of the sun, meaning right before sunset, you can bring it. Shemis aklim, and then once you bring it, things that are brought in the daytime can continue burning into the nighttime. So you bring this, the last possible time to bring this is right before sunset, but it can continue getting consumed the whole night. How do I know? Zos Torah's ha'ola. This is the category, this is the subject of the ola. That's extra riba, and therefore it tells me that these things can be consumed in the nighttime, even though they're brought in the daytime. What does that have to do with us? We just told you can bring kmitza with the coming of the sun, right before sunset. Now, right before sunset is not enough time for the kmitza to fully burn, but it is enough time for it to catch fire. Sounds like right before sunset you can put it on. So how much time is that? Only enough that it can catch fire, not enough that it can burn, that it can mostly burn. So that's what the student said. This is one of their proofs. So or berubo, you can't do most of it with that little bit of time. Says the Gemara. Okay, and that's not a difficulty. Why? Because we're going to differentiate. The brisa says that you can do that, but that's to fulfill your obligation of offering up the kmitza and the other things in the daytime. I mean, you have to do it by the daytime. So we're differentiating now that if you do it right before sunset, you fulfill your obligation of offering in the daytime. However, that doesn't mean that you can eat the remnants. We split. To eat the remnants, you might still need it to burn fully, and that you didn't have. But to fulfill your obligation of not offering at nighttime, that you could that you can accomplish by offering it up right before sunset. So lo kasha, kan liklot, kan lehatir. It depends. If you're trying to fulfill your obligation of offering up in the daytime, then you've done that because you put it on the altar. If you want to know, did you fulfill your obligation to eat the remnants? So that answer is no. Now, I don't know. I'm wondering, like, how does it work? You put on the altar right before sunset, and now, so right now, you can't eat the remnants. But in the nighttime now, as it continues burning, then you could eat the remnants. Like, are the remnants dependent on majority of the fire burning the kometz in the daytime, or are the remnants dependent on just the majority of the burning, even if it happens later on? It sounds like it has to be in the daytime, which is then interesting, because then if it has to be in the daytime, then you're setting yourself up in a situation for failure. Like, you're putting up the kmitza, but you can't eat the remnants. So that's interesting how this all works. Okay, so Rabbi Elazar Masnila Miboa Shamash. So he keeps the brisa the way we have it, with the after the sunset. Was it, how could it be? It's things in the nighttime and things in the daytime, and you can't use the same language or both. One is after sunset, and the daytime's also after sunset. He goes, yeah, how does it make sense? Umokim la bepokim. They got thrown off the altar and put back. So it's things that in the daytime were there, you got thrown off the altar, and then you put it back on. The Chen Kyasar of Dimi Rabbi Yanai bepokim. Rabbi Yanai also, Rav Dimi said in the name of Yanai, he also established this brisa to be teaching an interesting case where it was there in the daytime. After sunset, it got thrown off. So now we said, hold on, Rabbi Yanai said that. The incense, once that's on the altar, if any part of it comes off, you don't return it. And you're telling me that Rabbi Yanai said in that earlier brisa that you could do that? The Tanya of Chanina Barman Yumi, the debate of Rabbi ben Yaakov. Rabbi Chanina taught in the name of Rabbi ben Yaakov, Asher Tochal Eishas Ola Ala Mizbeach, Ikule Ola Tamachzir, Viet Tamachzir Ikule Torres. It's clear that the brisa says in the name of Rabbi Chanina that it's only the Ola, things that we're consuming of the Ola, and if it gets off the altar for whatever reason, you can return it. However, the consumption of the Torres cannot be returned. So how can you say it's Rabbi Yanai? Says, you're right. Someone become ketoris. If it's going to be Rabbi Yanai, then you have to remove that word ketoris, because it's not going to be consistent with his opinion. Okay. So two ways to interpret this brisa: either right before sunset, or it was really after sunset, and it was something which got thrown off the altar, and you can put it back on. Fine. Amar of Asi Kipashi Rabbi Dovid Menachos. When Rabbi Dovid was learning Menachos, Bayi Hachi. It's a cool thing. No, we're learning Menachos, and
he was learning.
He's learning Menachos. No, yeah. So I wonder who was on his Zoom. Yeah. So so he asked the following question: Komech Sidru Vesider Allah Vesamracha. Let's say you did it out of order. So you, instead of putting the wood and then the flour, the komech onto the altar, you flipped it. So I don't know exactly how this. You put down the flour first, and then you put down the wood. So meaning, I guess you put the flour and the wood on top. So, okay. So, mahu derech haktara b'kacho ein derech haktara b'kacho. Is that the way of burning, or is it not the way of burning? Meaning, do you need to have the way of burning, and therefore this is not it? Or no, this is also a way of burning, and it suffices. Teiku. We don't know. So, okay. By Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka asked the following question. Once he mentioned this idea of out of order, so more out of order comes. So we're in order talking about out of order. Yeah. So by Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka, a varin shetsidran b'tzidei hamaracha. So you have the pyre, and you have the limbs that you put on the sides, not exactly on top, to the sides of it. Mahu. So what's the lacha? Now, when it comes to the lechem apanim, the showbread, the 2 shelves of 6 loaves each, you also have frankincense that's on top of those loaves. So there's the debate, on top of it or even to the side of it. So Aliba the Manamar al Mamish Loti Bailach, according to opinion over there that says it has to be directly on top. So then there's no questions. To the sides is not going to work. The Allah Eitzim Ksiv, it says on the next page on the wood. Kiti Bailach Aliba the Manamar al Bisamach Mai. Sometimes the word al can mean on top. Sometimes the word al can mean next to. So the one that holds it over there, al means next to. What would he hold over here? So hachanami al b'samach. Yeah, you can put it next to it over here, and that's going to work too. Or maybe you'll say that the frankincense and the wood is different. Odil ma'ala eitzim dumya de ala mizbeach. That it has to be al ha'eitzim, similar to al mizbeach, to on the altar. Ma hasam al mamish, al hachanami al mamish. Just like it has to be on the altar, not to the side of the altar. So too by the wood. You have to put the wood. You have to put the limbs directly on the wood, just like the wood has to be on the fire. So too the limbs have to be on the fire as well. Okay. So I think now from this Mishnah for a while, it's all the different things that are going to prevent the komates, and then we're going to jump into like 10, 12 mitzvos. So that's fun. So hakomates miyuto me'akev. So a number of different parts of the flour offering that if you only have a little bit of it, it's going to be ma'akev. It's going to prevent the validity of the offering. Meaning hakomates miyuto me'akev. You have to be komates the whole thing. Scoop up the whole amount of flour, not a little part of it. If you do a little part of it, it's no good. Hakomates miyuto me'akev esruba. You komate a little bit, it prevents the rest of it. You have to do the whole measurement. Even if you're lacking a little bit, it's invalid. So, isaron miuto me'akev esrubo. The actual flour you put into the measurement has to be an isaron. That's the measurement. Less than an isaron, and it's going to prevent the flour offering from being valid. Hayayin miuto me'akev esrubo. When you have the wine, you have to have a shlishis ahin, a third of a hin of an aisle offering and for libations, and revius ahin lekeves, the chatzehin lepar, a whole number of measurements of wine that you're bringing with depends on what animal offering you're bringing. There has to be X amount of wine, whatever it is, a third, a fourth, a half, whatever you're bringing. If you're lacking a little bit of that, that's also no good. And hashemen miuto me'akev esrubo. And the oil is going to also, you have to have a certain amount of oil. If you're lacking that oil, so then it's going to prevent the offering from being valid. Asoles, the fine flour, v'hashem, and the oil, ma'akmin zadzeh. For most of the flour offerings, you mix it together. If you're lacking one, so then that's not good. It prevents the validity of the sacrifice. Hakomates v'halavona, same thing. You have the flour and the frankincense together, mixed together. They're also ma'akmin zadzeh. They also prevent one from another. Now, we a little bit saw this. We saw this a little bit, I don't know, a few weeks ago. But for things to be preventative, to be things that are not just for a mitzvah, but if you don't have it, it's no good. So the Torah could have a number of ways to write that. So one of the ways it could repeat the section. Remember, we had if it repeats the section, so then that's going to tell you that this is a necessity. Then there's a word like chukah, it's a statue, or there's tiyah, it will be. Or kenyasa, do like this. A number of these words that are emphasizing a certain point. So we're going to see them all right now. So why the kmitza? If you do lack a little bit, does it prevent the validity of the offering? My time amar kra milo komso trezimni. That it says you have to take a full handful twice. Oh, why twice? To teach you that if you're lacking any of it, it's going to be invalid. I didn't like this. Somebody on the Daf Yomi chat. So he asked, I don't understand. He asked on this line, what's the novelty that if it's lacking, it's not going to be no good? Aren't all mitzvahs supposed to be done perfectly? That's the question. So I didn't like that because every mitzvah has its own rules. And you see from here, we're going to bring verse after verse to prove to you that even the parts of one mincha offering, you have to have a separate teaching for each one of those parts to tell you that if you're lacking a little bit, then you are lacking. Which means that if the Torah didn't repeat it, then you would have thought that no. So you see the way the Torah views it is not the way he was saying. all mitzvahs are the same and just one general. It's not true. You see here, if it didn't say it twice, you would think you could do a little bit of the kmitza. And it does it 4 times over in the flower offering. So for sure, when you're taking this out of context, putting it to all other mitzvahs, each one has their own unique rules and regulations. So either way.
You have both handfuls, the first and second, have to be full and the same, or what? Or
that's good.
Or the second one is there just in case you missed a little bit of the first one?
I think ideally you put it all in one handful. Okay. The measurement in one handful. Okay. I saw they talk about a little bit. That's like a large amount. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think in one handful. Right. We saw if you have to do it twice, then it's fine. But yeah, I think ideally it should be in one. That's a good question. Isaron, the original measurement of the flour, miuta makaves rubo. You have to have an isaron. So, what would you have thought the Torah didn't repeat it? You would have thought that it's for a mitzvah. But as long as you have any flour, it would be good. How do I know my time? Amar Kra, misolta, from the fine flour. Shim chasra kol shehu psula. It has to be from the fine flour. The hay, Rashi said it's the hay, misolta. The extra hay teach you there has to be a full amount. If you're lacking anything, it's going to be invalid. Hayayin, the wine, muto makaves rubo, a little bit prevents the rest of it. All the wine libations. How do I know? Kacha. It says it should be like this. Kacha yesa. There's your perm reference. It says kacha yesa ish. This we should do to the man, who tried to hurt the king, and then Haman went out on the horse. Yeah. So that's kacha. So Hashem and muto makaves rubo. The oil prevents the little bit of oil. You have to have all the oil, not a little bit of oil. It's going to prevent the rest of it from being valid. Why? It says miuto ma'akaves rubo de minchas nesachim kacha. It says by minchas kacha. It should be like this. Uminchas nedava, but those are by libation flour offerings. But by voluntary mincha offerings, amarkra umishamna shim chaser kol shu psula. It has to be. I think the hay also from the oil. The extra hay tells you that it's going to be a preventative. Hashem and vehasolas, both oil and the flour have to be together. If you're missing one, then you're missing the whole thing. Makvin says, how do I know? Misolta umishmena, umishamna. That it has to be both of them. Misolta umishmana, migarsha umishmana. So you have to have the fine flour and the oil, and you have to have the other flour, and the coarse flour and the oil. But you need both of them. You need both of them together. It repeats itself. It says misolta umishamna umigarsha umishmana. It repeats it twice. From the flour and the oil, and from the flour and the oil. Why does it repeat it? Repeats it to tell you that you need both of them. If you're missing one of them, then it's going to be no good. The komets and the frankincense, you need both of them. If you're lacking one, you're lacking everything. How do I know? Al kol livonasa. It says, Al kol livonasa as kol halavona asher ala mincha. It says that the pasuk repeats it twice. You have to have the komets with the frankincense. Why is it repeated twice? To teach you that it has to be, that it's an absolute necessity. Okay, now we get to many other mitzvahs. So, Shnei Seiri Yom Kippurim Akad Zeh, the 2 he-goats of Yom Kippur, the one that's brought and the one that's thrown off the cliff, they prevent one another. You have to have both. Shnei Kifsei Atzeres, the 2 lambs of Shavuos, Ma'akvan Zeh. If you're lacking one, it's no good. Shnei Chalos Ma'akvos Zu, the 2 breads of Shavuos, you need both. If you're lacking one, it's no good. Shnei Sedarim Ma'akvan Zeh, 2 shelves of 6 piece of 6 loaves each are ma'akev zeh. You have to have both shelves, 12 loaves. Shnei bazichin, the 2 bowls of frankincense on top of the 6 breads. That's also, you have to have both of those bowls of frankincense. If not, it's lacking. Ma'akev zeh. Ha sidorin v'ha bazichin, ma'akev zeh. You have to have the loaves and the frankincense. If you're lacking one of those, you're lacking everything. Shtei minim shebin nazir. I think the nazir brings 2 breads at the end of his nazir's process. Yeah, more like wafer-like bread and thicker bread. So he brings those. You need to bring both of those. Shlosha shebe para. It's referring to the paraduma. So the paraduma has the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the shanitolas. What's it called? The scarlet wool.
strip of red wool.
Red wool. Yeah, the three things you need for the paraduma, you need all of them. The arba shebetoda, and there's four different things you bring with korban toda. Oh, sorry, yeah, the four different breads. Last night. Yeah, the korban toda was 40 breads total, and they were made from four different kinds of consistencies. Thinner or thicker, you brought 40 of those, and then you took off one from each and you gave it to the Kohen. And then the rest you ate with your buddies, thanking Hashem for the miracles you did. Yeah. So, by the way, you would think twice before flying overseas. You fly overseas, you make a birchas lagomel. Okay, but back in the day, you're going to bring 40 loaves and have a feast. Yeah. So, okay, so you better have either a lot of friends or a big appetite. So, it happens to be, I think the Nitziv writes, you have 40 loaves of bread and very little time to eat it, a day and night. Why? It says because you get more people to eat it, and now you thank Hashem more in public.
Oh.
And you have more people now. You're going to have to. You're hanging 36 loaves by yourself. Mm-hmm. So you have to invite everybody. Oh, once everyone's there, you tell everyone about what Hashem did for you, and that makes it the greater things. Yeah. I think that's what he says. So, if not, it sounds good. No, I'm kidding. I'm pretty sure he says that. So, okay. And now, Sukkah's time. So the arba shebalulav, you have to have all four species of the arba minim. So you have to have all four of them. You have to have all four of them. Yeah. So fine, that's that. The arba sheba mitzora, the mitzora at the end of his mitzora process, he has to bring these also four different materials. He has to bring
cedar wood, hyssop, strip of red wool, pair of birds.
So the same thing as the paraduma, just a pair of birds extra. Cedar wool, hyssop, red wool, and the birds. Yes, those are all ma'akvin zedzeh. Those all prevent one from happening. If you're missing a bird, you're missing everything. If you're missing any of them, you're missing everything. Now we get to 3 of the sprinklings of blood. Oh no, not yet. Sorry. Sheva zo sheva para. The paraduma, before you burn it, you have to sprinkle 7 times. So that sprinkling is ma'akiv. They're ma'akvo zu. You have to sprinkle them. If not, then it's not going to go. Then you have 3 of the ones on Yom Kippur. So sheva hazayos shal bein habadim, between the badim when you do hagba, what you hold on to are the badim. I believe the handles of the arms, so the poles, that's the word, the poles. So you do 7 swings between the poles of the actual aron inside the Kodesh HaKodashim. Then you go out and you do Sha'ala Paroches on the towards the curtain going into the Kodesh HaKodashim, and then you go further out, Sha'al Mizbeach HaZahav. So all of those 3 sets of sprinklings are all Ma'akvos Zuazu. They all prevent one another. If you're missing one, you're missing all. Sorry, the last 2 sprinklings, one's on the paroches and on the altar, on the inner altar, called the Mizbeach HaZahav. So that's not only on Yom Kippur, that's also by the bull that's brought when the congregation makes a mistake based off an erroneous ruling of the court, or it's an erroneous ruling of the Kohen Gadol. So those 3 that are brought on the inner altar, their sprinklings all prevent one another from happening. You have to do all 7 sprinklings. Okay, so now we're going to find the sources for all of these laws. So, Shnei Seir Yom Kippurim, the 2 he-goats on Yom Kippur. How do I know? Chukah. It says the word chukah. This is a statute, meaning no budging. It has to be. So you see clearly from here that without special verses, just because the Torah says 2 he-goats, in the ideal world, that's what you should do. But if you don't and you bring one of them or whatever, it'll still suffice. It'll still suffice for Yom Kippur. It's interesting. So a little bit like it's on Sunday. There's the ideal, what Hashem wants, right? And then there's the practically, if you don't do it, how much So okay. So Shnei Sir Yom Kippur Machman Zedzeh Chukah. Shnei Kif Satzers, the 2 lambs of Shavuos Machman Zedzeh, prevent one another. How to know? Havaya. It will be. It has to be like this. No other way. It says there. Well, actually, it says Yihiyu. Al Shnei Kazim Kodesh Yihiyu. That they shall be to Hashem. They shall be is another word that it has to be like that. Sorry, that's not the right pasuk. No, it is the right pasuk. It is the right pasuk. Sorry. Yeah. Shei chalos, by the two breads of Shavuos. It says in the pasuk, Tihiena. So the way the Gemara says it is Havaya, meaning it's not that exact word is in the verse, but it's that shorish, that root, that it will be. But in one case it says Yihiyu, in one case it says Tihiena. The point is that they shall be. That's one of the words that tells us that it has to be like that. Yeah, Shtei Chalos. Oh no, sorry, Shtei Sidarim. The two shelves of 6 loaves each for lechem apanim. It says chukah. Shnei bazichin, the 2 frankincense bowls, prevent one another. Chukah. Hasidarim babazichin. Chukah. The loaves and the frankincense prevent one another from happening, from being valid. It says chukah. Shnei minim shebenazir, the 2 kinds of bread that the Nazir brings at the end of his Nazir's process. Dichsiv kenyasa, you shall do it like this, and no other way. Shlosha shebapara, the 3, the hyssop, the cedar wool, the cedar wood, and the red wool by the para aduma. It says chukah. Arba shebetoda, 4 kinds of breads. The iskish lenazir, this we had one time previously. It's because that's compared to a nazir. The chsiv al zevach toda shlamot. It says you should bring by the nazir. You should bring al zevach toda shlamot, some kind of peace offering. What's that? Amarmar shlamov l'rabos shalmi nazir. It's coming to include the peace offering of a nazir. So we see in the verse of a toda, it compares the peace offering of a nazir to teach you that they're compared to each other. To teach you that if you're missing one of the loaves of the toda, that it's going to prevent the other ones from taking place, just like the 2 breads of the nazir. If you're missing one of them, it's ineffective. The arba shebemitzora, so the cedar wood, the hyssop, the scarlet wool, and the birds, all of those prevent the purification of the mitzora. The siv zos tiyet or some mitzora. This shall be the laws of the mitzora. This shall be. That's one of those words that teaches you that if you don't have everything here, then it's going to prevent it. Okay, the arba shebelulav, the 4 species of the lulav. So this is interesting. It says ulekachtem, you shall take them. However, the Gemara expounds v'lakach tam. You should take them tam, perfectly together. So you should have a lekicha tama. Now here there's an interesting debate. What exactly does this require? So simply what it means is you have to take them together. But there are opinions that really, no, meaning the more radical opinion would be that lekach and lekicha tama means you take all the 4 species, but that's only going to be true on the first day, because it says ulekachtem lachem biyom harishon, take the 4 species on the first day. So the beginning of Tosafos says that on the second day, right, it's novel, you can take one of the 4 species, aravos, hadasim. So yeah, you can take one of them and you make a bracha ala tilas lulav. So, but others argue that say no, you need all 4 species for all the days. Just you need to have them all together on the first day. But there's a whole discussion if you pick them up one after another, does that work or not? So this is from here. For lakach, you have to have lakicha tama, a whole taking. So what does a whole taking mean? So Rashi says you have to have the 4 of them together. So now there's a question: 4 of them together on day 1, or no? 4 of them together on all the days, but maybe tied together on the first day. So let's see. So Amar of Chanan barav aloshna elosh ein lo aval yesh lo ein ma'akvin. So Rav Chanan bar Abba says this is only true she'ein lo. If you don't have the 4 species, so then they're going to prevent one another from fulfilling your mitzvah. But if you have all 4 species, but you didn't bring them together, you didn't pick them up together, so then according to him, you fulfilled your mitzvah. On that we ask, Meisa arba minim shebelulav, shtay mehen osin peiros. Two of them produce fruits, the lulav and esrog. The shtayim hen ein osin peiros, the hadassim and the aravus, the willows and the myrtle. Thank you. Yeah, ein osin men peiros. So what happens? Ha'osin peiros, you use the kukin l'she'ein osin. You have to put the lulav and the esrog together with the myrtle and the willow. L'she'ein osin, v'she'ein osin peiros, use the kukin l'she'ein, and the ones that don't produce fruit should be attached to the ones that do produce fruit. The ein adam yotzi de chavasan behen ad shu kulam b'aguda achas, and all until you put them all together, you have not fulfilled your obligation. V'chein Yisrael b'hartzah, and so too the Jewish people with getting forgiven, showing appeasement to Hashem. It only works ad shu kulan ba'aguda achas, only when the Jews are together as one. How do I know? Shenemar habona b'shamayim alos. You're going to build in the heavens, elevated things in the heavens. The agudaso, same word, va'agudaso al eretz yisrael. But down here, the foundation has to be together, va'aguda, bundled together.
So there's a problem. We're not always all together.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
That's a big problem.
Yeah. Maybe one of the problems that led to the destruction of the Second Temple. Yeah. So they're not all together. Yeah. So but what do you see here? You have to always bundle it together. But the earlier opinion just told us that's only if you have them, they don't have to be bundled. You need 4. If you don't have 4, it's not good. But if you have 4, they don't have to be bundled. But we see here they do have to be bundled. So that's actually a machlokas tanaim. Tanaihi titanya lulav, a lulav bein a lulav here means all the species. So lulav bein agud bein she'eino agud kosher. First opinion says that it's kosher even if it's not bundled together. Rabbi Yehuda Omer agud kosher she'eino agud pasol. It has to be bundled, and if not, it's going to be invalid. So now, my time, Rabbi Yehuda, why should it be invalid? You have 4 species. Because it says, Gomar kicha kicha magudas ezov. You learn out that it has to be bundled from agudas ezov. I think it's by the paraduma. No, sorry, in the desert, they had a bundle of the ezov, the hyssop, and they bundled it. So when they brought the Korban Pesach, so Mala Halan Baguda, Afkan Baguda, that was bundled. So this is also bundled. I Verabana, what do they hold? Nope, Lo Gamri, Kicha Kicha. They don't have this Gzeira Shava. A Gzeira Shava only comes with a tradition from your Rebbe. They didn't have that tradition. So, okay. Now, Kiman Ozla Haditanya. So, the commentary, I saw this morning, the commentators explained that lulav and esrog produce fruits. So it's referring, lulav is referring to people that learn Torah, and the esrog is referring to the ones that do mitzvos. They produce fruits. They produce in their Torah, they produce in their mitzvos. The other 2 don't produce fruits. They don't, they're not people that are involved in mitzvot, and not people that are involved in Torah. So it says that the first letter of lulav and the first letter of esrog is lamed aleph. It stands for Leiv Echad. I mean, those people are united because they're involved. Mm-hmm. The other ones are not involved. So you have to put them all together. Yeah. So, okay. So, the Tanya, it says the price of lulav mitzvah lagdo. Oh, there's a mitzvah to bind it together, all 4 species. Vimo agdo kosher. And if not, then it's still going to be kosher. So that's the price. Kiman, who does that go like? So, Ikar Yehuda. If the Rabbi Yehuda is log to my kosher, why is it valid? You have to bind it together. And Rabbanan, and if it's the Rabbanan, so my mitzvah, why do you have to do? There's no reason to bind it. We say no. La'olam Rabbanan. We go like the Rabbanan, that really the price like the Rabbanan, that there's no need to bind it. My mitzvah, what's the mitzvah? Mishum zekeli ve'anvehu. It's a mitzvah of you are my God and I shall beautify you. That's the source for Hiddur mitzvah, to make the mitzvahs beautiful. Okay. Sheva hazos shebepara ma'akvos zuazu chuka. It says 7 sprinklings of the paraduma. Before you burn the para, you have to sprinkle the blood onto the altar. So towards the kaporas. If you don't do it, then it's going to prevent it because it says chuka. Yeah, towards the Ol Moed. Okay. Sheva hazos shal ben aba on Yom Kippur. the 7 sprinklings inside the kosher kadashim between the poles, vish al mizbech hazav, and the other 3 offerings that are brought on the inner altar, vish al paroches, and towards the paroches, ma'achos zuazu. How do I know? Yom Kippurim sev chuka. It says there chuka by Yom Kippur. Depar ko Mashiach udepar helam davar shel tzibur. With this era, these 3 offerings, the one that is brought when the community makes an error, based off the community acts incorrectly, based off an erroneous ruling of the great court, or the Kohen Gadol erroneously makes a ruling erroneously, or the Higot on Yom Kippur. All of those have their sprinklings on the inner altar. Prevent each one of the sprinklings prevents if you don't have one, then it's going to be invalid. How do I know? Kedetanya, but also lepar, kasher also lepar. You should make for one of the bulls like you do for the other bulls. What's it teaching you? Matam lomar lichfol behazos. It's to teach you to double, so to speak, it repeats the sprinklings to teach you shim chaser achas mikol matanos lo asaklum, that if you're lacking one of the sprinklings, then you didn't fulfill your obligation. Taner Rabbanan sheva hazos shebapara, 7 sprinklings of the para she'asad bein shelo lishman bein shelo mechuvanus. So let's say the 7 sprinklings of the para aduma that you're sprinkling, and you do it lo lishma. You're having in mind a Yom Kippur offering. I don't know. You're having in mind some other offering while you're doing it, or bein shelo mechuvanus. You're not really doing it directly towards the west part of the altar, towards the entrance to the tent of meeting. You're doing it a little bit to the side. Psulos, that's invalid. However, ushebemitzora, but the offerings, the sprinklings done on the inner altar, or the mitzora, breaking news here, shebefnim ushebemitzora, shalom lishman, psulos. But shalom mechuvanos ksheros. There, if you have for the wrong reason, it's invalid. If you do it not exactly in line, then it's going to be ksheros. Then it's going to be kosher. V'hatanya, the Brisa says, Gabe Parash Shloshman Psulos and Shalom Mechuvanos Kshera. It says by the para, if you do it for the wrong reason, it's invalid. But if you do it Shalom Mechuvanos Ksheras, if you don't aim it exactly towards the tent of meeting, a little bit to the side, it's still going to be good. Because it doesn't say there explicitly by these sprinklings has to be al nochach pnei. It doesn't say exactly has to be directly towards the ol moed. So there's a question, okay, but is that a required or not? That's not a question. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbanan. It depends if it's Rabbi Yehuda or if it's the Rabbanan. That so one of them is Rabbi Yehuda, one of them is Rabbanan. Where do we know that from? The Tanya, as the Brisa says, Mechusari kapara. You have people that they went to mikvah. They're waiting. All they have left is to bring their final offering to be atoned for. So they haven't brought it yet. Now they enter into places they're not supposed to enter. They go into the courtyard. If they do it b'shogeg, so then they're going to be chayav achatas. They have to bring a sin offering. If they do it on purpose, advertently, then they're going to get onish kares. So they get kares. Now the ein tzarich lomar tful yom. I didn't tell me about a tful yom. Tful yom is even less. He's waiting for sunset. The shar kol atmeim and the rest of the impure people. Utehorim sheniknasu lifnim mimechitzasan. Now, what about pure people that enter lifnim mimechitzasan? They go past where they're supposed to go. Rashi says there's 11 amos where a regular Yisrael can go. If you go past those 11 amos, so you're in trouble. It's like those people that make a wrong turn in Israel, and then they realize they're like 11 amos into an Arab village, and they know what to do, So yeah. So now leheichal kulo, or if you go all the way to the inside part of the temple to the heichal kulo or kulo be'arbayim, or all those 40. You get 40 makos. Then mibayis la parochas el penei kaporas, from the parochas further into the kaporas, meaning between the holy area and the holy of holies. That's b'misa. That's, I think, death in the hands of heaven, though, I think. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kol heichal kulo. Rabbi Yehuda says kol heichal kulo umibayis la parochas varbayim. The whole thing is only 40 lashes. 40 minus 1, don't worry. The el penei kaporas b'misa. But el penei kaporas, if you go inside too far next to the Holy of Holies, that's going to be b'misa. So now, okay, it's begin a long discussion now. Let's stop here. Gary is not there.
We have no guarantee.
So no leave.